Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your hosts, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. Our guest today is entrepreneur, speaker, and author, Philip Smith. Philip, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So before we just dive right in, we would love for you to give our listeners just a little bit of background about how you got into being an entrepreneur, really what inspired you to start your own business, and how you ended up where you are today.
To be honest, I had a rough childhood and did a lot of bad things between 18 and 21 years old. And all my friends actually ended up going to jail. So I was the last man standing. I finally decided to change my life. And I went to school at 21. So I went to college at 21. And then at 23, I finished my internship, got my 2-year degree. And I had a choice. Do I go start a business, which I was offered at the time to start a business in the web hosting industry, like selling dial-up services, doing web hosting at the time, or I was offered a job through the internship that I did. So I was dating this girl at the time, and her father was a wealthy guy, had multiple companies, investments, buildings, real estate, etc. So he's like, listen, just take the chance. You can always go get a job. And that's how it all started. And I was at 23 and struggled for many, many years. But we did sell that company in 2005. We sold that company. So it took about 7 years. And after that, I said, you know what? I just want to work from home. And I've been literally working from home pretty much ever since as mainly a one employee company. So that's how it all started my career, just because I was around the right people that gave me the right advice, I guess you could say.
That's a great background story. So you're an entrepreneur, you've had multiple successful companies. Tell us a little bit about, so before we dive too deep in, you actually ended up partnering with a shark on Shark Tank. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what happened was I've sold 5 companies so far, and I've been part of 9 acquisitions so far. So one of the acquisitions was to an investment fund, and that was in 2010. So I worked with that fund for 2 years, and we did a lot of deals together, raising money, investing, etc. And what happened was I learned a lot. So when you fast forward to 2018, I had a chance to go meet Kevin Harrington and do an interview with him. So I paid actually $9,000 to go be interviewed by Kevin, because I just want to put myself in the same room as him and essentially pitch him on doing a deal. So we did that. I met with them. I literally had 30 seconds time window from him walking from one room to another. And I just jumped in there and I gave him my 30-second elevator pitch. And from there, he said, hey, I'm interested in talking, and put me in touch with other people. 8 months later, in September of 2018, we finally signed a deal, and I've been working with them ever since.
Very cool. That is awesome. So right now, I believe the company that you're doing is allinonemarketing.com. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about what that business does.
Yeah, so that's our latest, my most recent business that I started. We started getting into it pretty much in 2022. And so it all started out as a software company. 15 tools in one, want to make life easy, because us personally, we use so many different tools for online marketing and building out funnels and automation, all that stuff. So we started building out for ourselves, and we said, you know what, let's just sell this, because it just makes sense for us to do. So it started out as that. Then one day somebody came to me and said, hey, Phil, let me get you on TV and be interviewed on TV. So I said, sure. So I went through the motions, and I realized, I'm like, why can't we do this? So we built out a whole network of shows across the country on the major networks, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox. And then we started providing those services beginning of last year. Then we did a deal, because we're already working with Kevin Harrington. We created these, what we call chief marketing officer service, which is essentially consulting services. You could put Kevin on your board of advisors, etc. And then now the latest thing is AI and build out AI marketing for companies.
Very interesting. So, talk to us about launching a lead generation business. What is that, and what are the steps to start one?
Yeah, it's the best business ever. And I smack myself in the head sometimes and I say, I should just go back to doing lead generation. Because if you really want the most scalable, automated business and stay a small company, that's the best business to be in because you don't need a lot of people at all. And when I first started, my first lead gen business was October of 2014. I ran my first Facebook ad, and 2 months later, I was doing 6 figures a month. And that's because just the scalability of it. Once you start spending money, and you spend $1, make $1.50, whatever it is, you just go spend 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, right? You just scale it. To build a lead gen business, the one thing that you need first is a buyer, right? You need an industry that you want to generate leads in, but you want to find the buyers in that industry first. So let's just say, for example, business loans. You want to find a business loan lender that will buy leads from you, right, first, and then you go build it out for them. But the key is this. The key is not just finding one buyer in one industry. The key is being in an industry where when you generate a lead, you can monetize that lead multiple ways. So what I mean by that is this. If you put an ad on Facebook, Google, or YouTube and you say, get a business loan, you're going to get majority, probably about 90% of the companies that are going to come to you will probably never get approved for anything. It's probably going to be a startup, someone with a napkin idea. They just don't generate enough revenue, whatever it is. That's going to be the majority of the companies that come to you. The small 10%, maybe on paper at least, look like they could get approved. Now, you can make a lot of money from that small 10%, but now you have 90% of your leads that are doing what? So when I first started learning how to do this myself was at the end of 2015, a year later after I started. I was only selling off the quality leads, that small 10% I just mentioned. Then I started learning, how do I make money with the 90%? So I started getting out there, going to industry conferences, just word of mouth, putting ads on Google for leads. And I started piecing together. I started selling leads to credit repair companies, companies that just provided services to businesses in general, incorporation services. So all different types of companies that would take the leads. So after all said and done, when I built this out, I was making more money on the quote unquote crappy leads versus the premium leads because I was able to monetize in multiple ways and I had so much volume of those. So that was the secret sauce that I started learning for myself is monetize a lead multiple times. So now if I ever get involved in a new industry or vertical or whatever, I'm going to build it out in a way where, number one, there's a lot of different things I can do with the leads, and I can cast a wide net on the front end so I can generate as much data as cheap as possible. So one thing I started doing last year was I joined Damon John's mastermind called Rise Nation. Obviously, Damon John is on Shark Tank currently. And I just had a call with them yesterday about doing a deal with them. So we were trying to do a deal with them for a while now. So last night, we actually had our second call with his team about this. And the proposal that I gave to them was, let's build out a business-to-business lead generation funnel where obviously Damon's on the front end. We generate those leads for whatever the front end service is. It could be AI services, could be our TV interview services, could be anything. And then as someone fills out the form, we ask additional questions. Do you need funding? Do you want marketing services? Whatever it is. And again, we can sell those leads off to affiliate marketing or just provide other services that we have. And of course, now once you have that data, now you can promote all your leads for anything. Hey, Damon's going to be in Atlanta. Do you want to go meet with them one-on-one for $5,000 or whatever it is, right? Because they have their own stuff that they do. So that's the concept. And that's, again, just a very scalable model because as long as you can generate those leads at scale, have your monetization strategies on the front end, just so the whole campaign's profitable. And then all that back end monetization will just make it more profitable, right? So it's really almost like impossible not to make money with something like that, even without Damon or Kevin, because I was doing this before I even met any of them. So as long as you have the right monetization strategies in place, you can easily do this. And any company can do this even for themselves. So
Stan, I know you're full of questions. What questions do you have for Philip?
Yeah, Philip, we could spend a long time having this conversation. This is so engaging to me. I'd first like to hear can you share a couple of examples of success stories, lead gen success stories. I just want to hear a couple of success stories.
So for me or other people that I worked with?
Lead gen campaigns that you've been the quarterback, where you've developed it.
Okay. So for business loans, I lived in that world since 2000, that October of 2014, that first Facebook ad. I literally am still in that world, but we've changed, right? So I've been living in the financial business space for basically almost 10 years now. Other campaigns that we have done are some business opportunity type campaigns where we promote and offer for someone to get into the lead generation business. We take those leads in, obviously sell them services, but then of course also monetize those leads through other strategies outside of what we do, right? You can, again, sell those leads off to somebody who just wants to take them and we filter them out, or we promote on the back end by email marketing, SMS. So take Affordable Care Act, the ACA for Obamacare. Like that can't, what you do in that campaign, which I didn't run personally on my own, but I worked with people that have worked with under me, is that, and one of them actually just got an award for his first $1 million campaign doing pay-per call marketing, where you just generate calls, not form fills, right? So I do a lot of form fills and calls, but I have a lot of people that I worked with that only generate calls. So what they did was they generate a lead off an ad and they promote, again, a wide net. So you're not specifically talking about healthcare, you're not specifically talking about Medicare or anything else. It's more about the subsidies or the reimbursement that the government gives for this type of healthcare. So what you do, the reason why is now someone just sees, oh, I get money from the government. That's the advertising play on the front end. So now when a person comes in, you ask their age, because now it's going to go to Medicare or healthcare, and then you just filter it down from there. And if they don't qualify for anything for whatever reason, maybe they already have health insurance or whatever the case may be, then it may go to, oh, do you have debt? Are you interested in other insurance? You know what I mean? So you always have something. So I have 5, 6 different offers as they press 1 or 2 on the phone for yes or no. It'll keep asking them additional questions, and it'll shoot them off to that call center to buy that lead. So the whole point is, again, to make sure you have so many opportunities to monetize the lead that they're going to choose something. You know, so, and then obviously the first offer you're going to give is your best offer. You make the most money, and then it goes down from there. So I do the same thing on a form. And the reason why I like forms better than calls, because I get to keep that data and I can do more stuff with it. When you just have someone's phone number, it's really hard to do more stuff with it. You can get more information from them from software or services that exist. You can get additional information. It's just hard now to turn that into, take that cold lead from a phone call, or take that phone call lead and turn it into an email lead and then start emailing them. It's weird. So it doesn't always convert as well. But when people come to you and give you all their information in a form and they see everything, and now you start contacting them, it's a lot easier because they know who we are, because we generate the lead. So there's been a lot of different campaigns here and there. The auto insurance, another thing you could do is build your own brand under a vertical. For example, I've always just been a lead gen company. So I never built a brand as a lead generation company. But some friends of mine who are in West Palm Beach have a company where they built out an auto insurance. And what they did, they built out an actual brand. So when they generated the lead, they actually communicated as that brand, even told them who has their information, who's going to call them, and et cetera. And by doing that extra level of communication and kind of building a brand around it, they did very, very well with that. They were doing like 3,000 leads a day in auto insurance for many years. And yeah, that's kind of like just some ideas.
Yeah, so I think I'm hearing 2 things here. One is I think I'm hearing that you're in the lead generation business where you generate leads and do things with them to monetize that. I think I'm also hearing that you're in the business of coaching other people on how to set up a business to do that.
Correct. Yeah, that's a whole other thing that we do.
Yeah. So how does that work?
That business has changed so much since I started in 2017 as almost like a joke. The reason why is, what I mean by that is, I saw all these guys online, people online just promoting courses back in 2017. I'm like, how hard could that be? So I'm the type of person that just sells stuff before I actually do the work. So I created a sales video, but I didn't have anything set up. So I'm like, if someone will actually buy this, at the time I was selling for $997. And I'm like, once someone buys this, then I'll go create everything. That's just how I've always been. So within 24 hours, somebody bought it. And I'm like, oh, crap, I got to create a course. So I did it in about 4 hours, put everything together, and I started selling that. But the reason why I did it, just so you understand, is I was already generating all of these business loan leads. And what I realized, as I said before, most of them will never get approved for a business loan. And a lot of them don't even have a company. They say, oh, I want money, and you've given me money in a loan, then I'll go start a business. So I said to myself, why don't I just give them a business to start? It's just another way to monetize the leads. That's how I got into that. And that skyrocketed right away in 2017. I think it was like July of 17. And that's the reason why that business started taking off. And I said, oh, I should probably partner with a larger brand because I'm in the branding world now and trying to brand myself. Let me try to contact a shark. So I contacted every single shark that was on the show. I talked to Damon at the time, Barbara Corcoran, and Kevin Harrington. Kevin Harrington's son just happens to live 20 minutes away from me. And I just obviously did a deal with them. And that just skyrocketed everything right away because of just attaching myself to Kevin.
So that's the bigger business that you have?
It's not bigger. It's just different. Lead gen is way more automated and scalable. That business, to be honest, is a nightmare to manage because you're dealing with so many people. We dealt with over 10,000 people. You deal with so many people. And in that world, to be honest, the average person should never try to start a business. That's what I've learned. Like and what I mean by that is that they don't have the right mindset. So many people go into the entrepreneurial world with the wrong mindset. And the number one thing they do is they quit too much. They quit too fast. Oh, I got a flat tire. I can't do this anymore. The excuses to not work are insane. If you're a real entrepreneur, you're going to make excuses to work. Like I could have easily made an excuse not to be here today, right now, because of all the stuff that's been going on with me personally. But I just always show up. I make an excuse to be here, not to not be here.
Yeah.
And it's the average person in this country, to be honest with you, is the type of person that will always make excuses not to work and come up with reasons to quit.
Let me shift. I've got all these I'd love to have dinner with you sometime. And I'd buy it because I want to hear all these things that you have to say. One of the questions that's intrigued me is, and I don't have the answer to it. You may actually. So how do we think about how much we can pay for a lead? Like how much money do I have to put into the front end of the funnel?
Right.
And measure like what comes out the other side of the funnel. Is there a formula for the math on that? Or is that different for every business, every product line?
So it depends. Are you talking about like you're building out your own service and you don't know what to charge for it based on the lead cost? Or I'm going to go sell a lead and I got to
no. I'm saying if I have a service, like a lot of people listening to this podcast have, if they talk to marketing guys, the marketing guys are going to say, you need to create like a Facebook campaign or Instagram or YouTube campaign. You need to put money into the front end of that.
Right.
When you look back in 6 months, how do you measure whether or not that was effective or not? If I put $10,000 in and get $12,000 out the other end, was that successful, or should I put a dagger in that?
Right. So what I would say is, and what we do is we base the price of the service based on what it costs to get an acquisition, right? So if it's going to cost me $2,000 to get somebody to pay me $3,000, I'm okay with that because we have upsells, right? So we have people paying more money beyond that. So I'm okay actually with our service. I'm okay with actually breaking even someone coming in through the front door. That's my thing. So you just have to decide what makes sense. The company has to decide what makes sense for them. Do they have additional services? Is it a monthly recurring revenue? Like when I had my web hosting company, we didn't make money for 6 months. So someone came in, but we didn't make a profit for 6 months. That was a monthly recurring revenue. In this business, we don't do monthly recurring revenue. We just charge minimally like $2,500 to $3,000. If they do payment plan, it's like $4,000, and then we have upsells from there. So we're okay with someone coming in and breaking even because marketing costs are a lot higher now across the board. We used to generate leads for $4. Now they're today like literally $12, right? So it's triple the cost per acquisition. Can you make a profit? So another thing I've learned is that we used to charge $997, and we upped it originally. That's just $2,500, but we're actually going to go up to $3,000. But we're at $2,500 now, and our conversion rate really didn't change that much. So we learned that if depending on your price point, if someone has $1,000, to be honest, they probably have 3. The majority of people probably have 3, and I would rather try to sell a $3,000 product with more value than a lower end $1,000 product. You know what I mean? So that's just me personally. So that's what I've learned over the years. And there's different, like if I have someone come to an event that pays $5,000, I know for a fact they got 10. They probably don't have 20 though. The chances are, right? Majority probably don't have 20. So you got to base your services based on what if you're doing to do upsells based on the initial price point. A lot of people love the dollar funnel to 97 to 287 to 497 to, I'm like, God, I tried that stuff during COVID and it worked. But then I'm like, wait a second, if I just brought people in $1,000, that would have been just fine. You know what I mean? Yeah, so right. I could have brought in less people at 1,000 and still made the same amount of money. And then I'm just dealing with less people. But in terms of the lead cost, at the end of the day, so going back to what I said before, if you can put together a strategy, and multiple companies that I worked with over the years have added 7 figures a year to their revenue by monetizing their own customer base, their own lead base through other services that are complementary, right? So there was this guy, Brad, out of Austin, Texas. He has a merchant processing company. So he's generating all these leads. And all he did was try to sell merchant processing. So I spoke at a War Room Mastermind event back, I think in 2019, and he was there and he listened. Going back to literally last year, March of 2023, I see him at the bar at another event and he goes, hey man, I just want to tell you something. Remember when you spoke at War Room, you talked about monetizing your data? That always stuck with me. I finally started doing it last year in 2022, 4 years later. And he goes, I literally added 7 figures to my revenue. And I said, great. So you're buying drinks today. Is that right? Is that why you're telling me this? So that was a key. And I've had multiple people add revenue to their business because of that. This guy, Zach, who I worked with, actually right behind me, this guy on the corner over here, he doubled his revenue in 3 months with his business. He's a loan broker, just by doing exactly what I told him. Take your existing leads, your existing data, and start offering other services, whether it's through an affiliate program or sell off the leads to different buyers with different type of services, and put that in play, completely automate it, and it just skyrockets everything.
Great. So one other question before Katie Beth grabs the microphone away from me. What's new? What's looking forward? How's lead gen changing now? How's AI impacting it? What other changes are happening? How's it going to be different, like in a year or 2 or 3?
Yeah, so AI is definitely going to change everything. A lot of people don't really see it yet, but this is exactly what it's done for us. Anybody that's generating leads, right? So whether you're running Facebook ads or whatever type of ads, you just have inbound leads, or even if you have a lot of data or big lists that you want to reach out to, what happens for us is when we get what we call an opt-in lead, someone comes in and they just fill out a name, email, phone number. They don't do anything else. They just fill out a form. I don't want to talk to that person, because I want them to go watch a video first before, if it's worth my time to speak to them, right? Let them filter themselves out. So we would never contact them. We would email them and do some other stuff, but we'd never call them. But what AI has done for us with those leads, because that's the biggest volume of leads that we have, right? Coming in the front door. Now we call every single one and we have a conversation with them using a bot, right? And now that AI bot is now going to text them the video link and have a communication with them, explain the services. Now I can do that all day, 24/7, not have to worry. Now, every single touch, we have multiple touch points now that we normally would never have. So for example, we know when someone watches our video and gets to the price. And now we know if they move forward or not. So now we can contact them at that point. If they fill out what we call our convert form, that's our form after the video. And now they tell us, hey, I'm interested and I'm ready to go. Now we can have the bot do that. Of course, we still let them schedule a call and all that stuff, but the bot will schedule a call for them if they didn't do it on their own, right? Just literally on the phone. Okay, I schedule a call for you tomorrow at 2:00. So that for us is really great. You can do it for customer support and all those stuff, but there's a lot of other things you can do. Like you can make one video and then personalize it with 1,000 different names, you know what I mean? And automate it. So if someone can fill out the form on my site and say her name's Stephanie, and I made the video once, and just take her name, put into the software, it'll recreate the video and say Stephanie, and the rest of the video will be exactly the same, and email and text it to her. And it looks like I made a personalized video for her, right? So there's a lot of different cool things that you can do like that. But from a funnel and lead gen perspective, It's all about communication. That's going to be the difference. Just communicating with people and having real conversations with them using a bot. And then, of course, getting them to that next step.
Amazing. It's awesome.
It is very fascinating. And I have 100 other questions that I could ask you. We'll have to do another interview sometime soon. But before we run out of time, is there anything that you want our listeners to know about before we sign off?
Listen, at the end of the day, if a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to be an entrepreneur are listening, the best thing that I could tell you is just don't give up. I see a lot of people just give up at the end of the day and they move on. They forget about it. They think it's not possible. The way I can tell you this is that it's like finishing a marathon. Like, and a marathon is like your goal line, right? Whatever your goals you're trying to achieve. It doesn't matter if you walk it, doesn't matter if you crawl it, doesn't matter if you stumble or you run as fast as you can. As long as you get there, you're good, because once you achieve it, you'll never look back, right? And that's the number one thing I see people do is they just give up. And join mastermind groups, go to conferences, put yourself in the right room with the right people. If I didn't put myself in a room with Damon John last year, I would never be potentially doing a partnership with them as we speak, right? It never would have happened, right? So you got to invest your time by putting yourself around the right people that can just accelerate your growth. It doesn't have to be a celebrity, of course. It could just be someone that's further down the road than you in whatever you're trying to do. So
I do have one other question before we wrap up here. Describe for us what the right fit for a client of yours would be. If somebody came to you to engage your company to go in this business, what would be the kind of the ideal fit for that person?
It's really, we work with pretty much anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur or who already is an entrepreneur, right? I can help out anybody with the marketing stuff. I'm not a product person. I don't do patents. I don't do drop shipping. I don't do international stuff. If someone's just looking for lead gen, marketing, scaling, exiting the business, that's where I live. And if someone wants to get into the businesses we are in, then sure, we already have all that set up ready to go for them. And again, as long as you're willing to put the work in, they have the chance of being successful. But it's just whether you want to be one or you already are an entrepreneur, that's who we work with.
Okay. All right.
I love that, and great wisdom to wrap up with. So thank you for everyone who joined us today. This has been the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your hosts, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. And our guest today was entrepreneur, speaker, author, and lead gen guru, Philip Smith. So for more information on Philip and the work that he does, you can visit philipfsmith.com, and we will also link that for you in the show notes. Philip, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.